A lot of people think the President of India is the absolute most powerful person in the country. I mean, it makes sense, right? But is that actually the case? Well, the President is the constitutional head of state, and they absolutely represent the nation. But here's the catch. Most of the actual executive powers are exercised based on the advice of the Council of Ministers. So today, in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into the true mechanics of India's power dynamic. To put it really simply, you can look at it like this. The Prime Minister leads the government. They head the cabinet, they make the big policy decisions, and they literally direct the administration of the whole country. Meanwhile, the President is there to safeguard the constitutional procedures. So, if we boil it down to a simple formula, the President equals the constitutional head, while the Prime Minister equals the real executive power. Section 1. The Grand Illusion of Power.
You see, India operates on a parliamentary system. When the constitution makers were putting this whole thing together, they were heavily influenced by the system in England. Because of that, they created what's known as a dual executive structure. It's kind of like a giant puzzle with two main pieces. On one side, we've got the nominal or titular executive. That's the ceremonial head of state, the president. But on the other side, we have the real executive, the head of government, which is the prime minister. So unlike a system where just one single person holds all the cards, India intentionally splits the ceremonial majesty of the state from the actual day-to-day machinery of running the government.
Section 2. The ceremonial head of state.
There is just a massive amount of constitutional weight placed on the president. Governed by Articles 52 through 62, the president is officially recognized as the first citizen of India. But here's something super interesting. Their oath isn't about setting policy or passing budgets, not at all. Their oath is specifically to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution itself. They literally represent the collective dignity of the entire nation. And as you might guess, getting into this incredibly prestigious office, yeah, it's no simple popularity contest.
Unlike the Prime Minister, the President isn't elected directly by the general public. Instead, they're chosen by an electoral college made up of elected members of Parliament and members of legislative assemblies. But, and this is a big but, not all votes are equal. An MLA's vote value is actually calculated by factoring in their specific state's total population. And then, an MP's vote value pulls all of those MLA vote values together. It's an incredibly complex, deeply representative mathematical balancing act. Seriously, the math behind this is fascinating.
Now, once they're actually elected, the president holds this absolutely awe-inspiring portfolio of authority, at least on paper. I mean, they appoint the prime minister, they're the supreme commander of the armed forces. Under Article 72, they even have the power to pardon criminals on death row, and they can literally declare national emergencies. But here is the massive catch we need to talk about. For almost every single executive action, the president is constitutionally bound to act on the advice of someone else.
Section 3. The engine of governance.
This brings us to the prime minister, who is the actual, real-world driving force of the country. Think of it this way. If the president represents the nation, the prime minister directs the administration of the nation. They are, without a doubt, the most powerful individual directing India's day-to-day future. The real, tangible authority, it lies right here. The Prime Minister is the chairman of the cabinet, which means they can totally impose their decisions if there happens to be a difference of opinion among the ministers. They're the ones allocating the portfolios, literally deciding who gets to be the finance minister or the defense minister. Plus, they head up these massive, absolutely critical institutions like the Nuclear Command Authority, the Department of Space, and Niti Aayog. And when India is out there attending high-level international meetings, it's the PM who is the official representative calling the shots. So let's break down exactly how the PM builds this power base, which is all governed by Article 75. It's a pretty fascinating sequence. Step 1. The president appoints the prime minister, who is usually the leader of the majority party in the Lok Sabha. Step 2. The prime minister decides exactly who they want in their cabinet and advises the president on those choices. Step 3. The president officially appoints those specific ministers. And finally, Step 4. That entire council of ministers becomes collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. Basically, the PM literally builds and controls the entire executive team from the ground up.
Section 4. Where two powers meet.
You know, the Constitution's framers engineered this absolutely brilliant tension between these two offices. Take a look at Article 74. It explicitly states that the president absolutely must act on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. As Dr. B.R. Ambike pointed out, the president really can't do anything contrary to their advice. But then, conversely, we have Article 78.
This one demands that the Prime Minister must communicate all administrative decisions and legislative proposals right back to the President. So the Prime Minister acts as this vital, continuous link between the Cabinet and the President. It's a relationship of constitutional subordination for sure, but it's also built on mutual respect and absolute transparency.
Section 5. Not just a rubber stamp.
Now, don't make the mistake of thinking the president is just a silent spectator, because they actually wield tremendous veto power. Before any bill passed by Parliament becomes an actual act, it needs the president's signature. The president can give their assent, withhold it, or return it. And here's the really wild part. Because the Constitution doesn't actually set a time limit for the president to act, they can effectively kill a bill simply by sitting on it. A perfect historical example of this happened in the 1980s. President Zil Singh boldly exercised what's known as a pocket veto to prevent the controversial Indian Post Office Amendment Bill from ever becoming law. He just didn't sign it, and so the bill died. Now that is real agency.
On top of that, there are these absolutely crucial moments where the president's independent judgment becomes the ultimate safeguard of our democracy. For instance, if an election results in a hung parliament, meaning no one has a clear majority, it is entirely up to the president's discretion to choose who gets that first chance to form a government as prime minister. Also, thanks to the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act, if the cabinet gives the president advice that they strongly disagree with, they can actually send it back for reconsideration once. Sure, they have to accept it if it comes back a second time. But just having this ability to officially hit pause and force the government to rethink a major decision, that's incredibly impactful.
Section 6. The ultimate comparison.
So let's look at them side by side. The Prime Minister is the head of government with the real executive power, right? But they are highly vulnerable, politically. They can be removed almost instantly if the Lok Sabha passes a no-confidence motion. The President, on the other hand, is the head of state with ceremonial power, but they possess immense, rock-solid stability. They can only be removed through this highly complex, super difficult impeachment process for violating the Constitution. It's kind of like one is the engine of a car, driving the country forward at high speeds. The other is the chassis and the seatbelts, securely holding the entire vehicle together.
Which leaves us with this final, pretty provocative thought. If the Prime Minister holds all the real tangible power, why is the silent, ceremonial restraint of the President so absolutely vital to the survival of a parliamentary democracy? Well, it's because the President represents the permanence of the state itself. While prime ministers and governments come and go with the shifting political tides, the President remains the steadfast, impartial guardian of the Constitution. They ensure that the engine of governance, no matter how fast or powerful the Prime Minister is, never runs off the tracks of democracy. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.